BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor, take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Kollman Gearhart. A former athlete and motivational coach, I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
Today's BTB Short, I want to talk about something that's a little different. We all know that the world we live in often pushes us to be perfect. And trying to be perfect can be something that can hold us back, that can debilitate us from maintaining progress, for going after goals and achievements, and it can paralyze us right in our tracks and make us stand still like a statue. It's not abnormal for human beings to want to get things right. I certainly have been in situations where I've done things wrong and people will point the finger and judge and criticize. But it's oftentimes in those mistakes where I actually end up still trying to do something despite the mistakes and even be a little bit sloppy, that I'm actually able to maintain this momentum to satisfy the ability of one foot in front of the other. As cliche as it sounds, I think we do have an issue in today's world to be afraid to be a little bit sloppy in our walks, in our journeys. And if you feel like sometimes you want to get everything right and it's keeping you from taking that next step, then this episode is for you. But what if I told you it's actually okay to not only be a bit messy on your journey to success, but to embrace the messiness, and the mistakes can be incredibly freeing and powerful when you let them happen. I want to talk about 5 steps that can help us become more tolerant to our mistakes, to allow us to untap our potential. And I want to preface these 5 steps with one of the greatest mistakes, sloppy moments I had in my life that ended up actually working to my benefit. And that was the ability to start this podcast. If you go all the way back to episode 1 of the BTB Project, I actually did an episode as an introduction. I relived a moment when I was a high school tennis coach. I had one of my former players interview me for the school yearbook to go over the season, a little bit more about history and who I was, what motivated me to coach and things like that. And I remember that first episode, getting my equipment set up and trying to make my voice sound clear and concise and make sure my camera was right. And I just remember spending all of this time trying to tweak and tinker, and I never actually pushed play and record. And it's through that moment, I realized, man, how much time am I going to spend overthinking this? How much time am I going to spend thinking about what others are going to think about what I say, how I say it? And something that should take, 30 to 45 minutes to record, I'm sitting there an hour and 30, an hour and 45 minutes just thinking about not screwing it up. But then the moment I press record and I record that episode, looking back now, being a little over 135 episodes into the podcast later, man, I made so many mistakes in that recording. And listen, I can go back and edit and try to cover up some of those mistakes. But the point is in order for me to start down this journey of doing a podcast, I had to fall flat on my face. I had to take that leap of faith and go into that unknown to just get started. And when you're listening to that, how can that philosophy impact your life? So let's jump into that with these 5 steps on how mistakes can truly unlock our potential. And the first one is embrace a trial and error approach. Whether it's school or sports or jobs or in our daily life, we're often scared to admit when we mess up. I sure as heck am scared to admit it because I feel like a lot of people look up to me as a coach. A lot of people look up to me in my family. And that kind of facade of trying to be perfect, the reality of the situation is we're imperfect human beings. But leaders especially don't want to look weak. I never want to show vulnerability in some cases. That's one of my greatest flaws. So with that, I just sometimes outright avoid taking risk. But one thing that I've learned is this whole concept of needing to be perfect. What does that really do for you? There's a book that I came across that was talking about a laundry detergent factory. And I know it's like, how does we go from making mistakes to a laundry detergent factory? Well, it's really neat, the concept that I came across, because they were trying to figure out the perfect nozzle for their detergent factory. So they created 10 random variations and they tested them all. And the best ones led to new variations. And after 45 rounds of testing and tweaking, they got just the right nozzle for their laundry detergent. 45 rounds of testing. Can you imagine somebody spending that amount of time just to make laundry detergent come out of a nozzle? That's a ton of mistakes. But as they progressed and figured out what didn't work and what would work, it became something that was a successful laundry detergent dispenser that is used in almost every household in the United States today. You don't get to that point by chance. You get to that point by failing and failing and failing while maintaining your enthusiasm to create something like that. I remember that too with my tennis game. All of the shots that I missed before I started to make them. Taking the risk of implementing the next shot, no matter what catastrophic mistake I just made before, allowed me to hone in my game and play at a pretty high level. And those types of trial and error approaches, embracing the suck, embracing the embarrassment or shame or whatever you have, watch what it does as you continue to have reps towards your progress with mistakes rather than thinking about not making a mistake. And that leads me to the second step, which is own your mistakes. Those insecurities that I have about trying to be perfect. Well, what if I do come up short and I make a mistake? Perfectionism can be paralyzing. And when we mess up, we often try to hide it, and it feels terrible. But when you start owning up to your mistakes, it can change everything. It can remind us that everyone makes errors, and that's okay. For all you parents out there, I got 3 kids myself. Admit your mistakes to your kids. If you're a manager, share your goof ups with your team. This creates an environment where it's safe to experiment and grow. To be imperfectly perfect is such a wonderful place to be in life because it allows you to take some of those shackles of insecurity off and actually have that common ground with your peers, with your family members, with your teammates, to embrace those moments of you're not perfect. We're far from it. So own your mistakes and watch what happens in your life. Through owning your mistake, every mistake in step 3 is a lesson. Turn your mistakes into lessons. How you handle your mistakes determines whether they become regrets or lessons. How you handle your mistakes determines whether they become regrets or lessons. Let that sink in for a little bit. Think about the last time you made a mistake. What were you trying to do? What went wrong? Why did it happen? Once, and most importantly, you identify the mistake and the why behind it, now you have a very distinct choice to make. You can either dwell on what happened and give yourself a lot of regret, self-doubt, or you could learn from that mistake. Then ask yourself, what would you do different next time? That's where the power of mistakes and sloppiness lead to this beauty of progression, is when you take something that is holding you back and you learn from it, it becomes a fuel. The reflection of understanding an error and turning it into a valuable lesson, that's going to be fuel for your fire. That's going to be something that ignites the coals in your freight train to keep you moving forward and to build momentum. And that's where step number 4 comes into play. What if you're able to separate the mistake from yourself? Label the mistake and not yourself. The worst part about making a mistake is when we internalize them. That's when we start building up the weed garden in our minds, in our heart. And when those weeds grow too big, it can hold us back from doing positive things, from doing amazing things in our life. I just had a podcast about the importance of looking through the windshield in your life rather than the rearview mirror. And being able to separate the mistake from yourself is part of that process. Not internalizing the mistake or feeling like we are the mistake, but label it separately. There's a big difference between making a mistake and being one. Label that sloppiness as the problem to solve, not yourself. This keeps your self-worth intact, and it helps you stay focused on learning and improving. As I've been able to coach for over 22 years, one of the most gratifying things in the world is when a client is able to recognize their own mistakes, to self-coach in the moment. That's life. Being able to have that switch in your mind of recognizing the mistake, adapting and pivoting from that mistake, labeling the mistake as a mistake while tapping into your self-confidence. Last and certainly not least, number 5 is go screw up. Go, I always like to say this, spectacularly fail. Pretend like you're on a stage and you just mess up so bad that the entire audience starts pulling out the tomatoes and throwing tomatoes at you on the stage. Learning to be tolerant of mistakes, it's not easy, especially if you're a perfectionist. But putting yourself out there and risking failure is essential for any step in your life. It might make you feel less confident at first, but over time, you'll get better and stronger and learn and adapt and adjust to become the greatest version of yourself. And when you're on this journey of sloppiness and making mistakes and screwing up towards your progress, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to put yourself around a friend group that's going to support you in those difficult times. Does it require you to be vulnerable to do that? Yes. But I'm telling you, it is a whole lot better than to sit and internalize and manifest all of this negativity and self-doubt, which then paralyzes you from no longer taking steps forward in your progress. Embrace those trials and take errors with courage, because that's really the only way to make real progress. So as we reflect back on these 5 steps of helping with mistakes towards your progress, remember the 5. Embrace trial and error, own your mistakes, turn your mistakes into lessons, label the mistake, not yourself, and go screw up. Go spectacularly fail. It's okay to be a bit sloppy on your way to success. Life isn't a straight line. We've all seen those flow charts of what success really looks like. And it looks like the 5-year-old stole your pen and scribbled all over the place. That's the true path to success. Making mistakes is part of the journey. Having the ability to know that when you screw up, you have a support system, you have people that are rooting for you along the way. This is going to increase your mistake tolerance and allow you to truly reach your potential. Let's be able to celebrate our imperfections. Let's be able to learn from our errors and aim for progress, not perfection. Listen, if this BTB short on making mistakes and the ability to embrace sloppiness in your life towards progress, if it impacted you, do me a favor and like and subscribe to the BTB Project. Better yet, send this message to a family member, friend, or colleague and ask how they're doing. Are they paralyzed by their perfection? Or are they taking risk, making mistakes, and learning from those mistakes along the way? It's being able to do this life as a BTB community is what allows us to overcome our fear of mistakes and to go after anything that we dream of, that we're looking for, that we're striving for in our life. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, take care.